Hey, welcome to today's IT Review Committee, IT Contract Review Committee for November 21st, 2023. And we'll start as always with a pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Young.
Here.
Luhan.
Present.
Sassy.
Here. Here. Okay, everybody please silence your phones if you haven't already, just so we don't interrupt. Welcome, County Executive.
Good morning, or
Good
good
afternoon.
afternoon, sorry, yeah.
Anything you want to say about this process so far? Have you seen the videos?
I've seen some, honestly, I just don't have the hours and hours to sit there and watch them, so if something else came up. So I've seen some of them, I appreciate you guys' time with this, I know all of you guys personally. I don't have a monologue, pre-written notes, a song, I'm not gonna tell you my GPA from school and who's my in-laws and all that stuff. What I can tell you is, this is now my 10th year as being county executive. I can give you a little bit of history of how we got to, I think, where we are today and where we're going forward real quick. I won't give you, like, again, some of the other comments earlier. So when I came in here 10 years ago, some of you guys were here, some of you weren't. The county was having all sorts of financial problems. One of the initial ideas was to combine some of the departments. As you guys know, social services and mental health were united. Darcy Miller took command of that venture. Procurement was put together with IT. The former commissioner, Jim Burpo, took command of that. And it worked, both have worked, I thought, pretty well for the most part. DSS and mental health still working well. I think procurement started to, and IT, having the two of them, started to just slip over the years. We had a number of deputy commissioners that were in charge of IT that came in and left. One guy lasted a day. So as you guys know, I think it's 2021 or so, we put in the budget to create an independent IT department. It was argued at a county, at a subcommittee meeting. It was ultimately killed, and we stuck where we are today. At the end of last year, probably about this time, I started seeing some significant problems with IT. Some of the programs that we expected to be done, like niche and other things that had timelines. I'm a military guy, and I believe in timelines. You tell me you're going to have this thing done in 12 months, and now on the 13th month it's not done, you've got a problem. So I saw that happening. At about that same time, the commissioner had left and was leaving to Putnam County, and we had to put in a new commissioner, Sam, who we heard from earlier. One of the conversations I had early on with her was, what do you think about IT? And her indications from day one was that I'd like to do procurement. IT comes with the job now because that's the way it was set up, but obviously setting up an independent department would be better. That was the direction I've been, and Harry Port, a deputy commissioner, since 21. I've had conversations with the chairwoman and Tom Fagione within the last year saying, hey, we're going to put this on in the budget again for an independent department. We think it needs the attention. I think Kevin Darian, before we went on camera, he said one thing everybody agrees on is that IT is an important topic. So probably after earlier next year, we can go back and ask me questions. I got presented from Alicia and Sam of procurement, not procurement, of the STAR CIO. At the time, we operate in county government on a lot of consultants, and we also have our own internal staff. So we have a hybrid, we have a mixture of both. And one of the concerns they had was that the consultants are just billing, and I have nothing ill about any of the consultants, whether it's Cherry Road, UTC. I wouldn't say anything bad about any of them. They're consultants, and their job is to do a job. And like many consultants that we all dealt with, like whether they're attorneys or engineers, their job is to create more business. So Sam and Alicia came up to me and said, hey, look, we brought in this hired gun. He's a great guy. He knows a lot. He's got a crazy resume, got experience. We're going to have him look and see how we're doing. So I think it was like February or so, they brought him in to not this room, but my conference room. And he gave a presentation and said, hey, I looked at your stuff. You guys have some vulnerabilities. I think you need to keep me on. I know I signed up for an initial couple months. So anyway, that's how this proceeded to grow from like the $66,000 to where we are today. Now, throughout the last, I don't know, 8-9 months since this whole thing started and got us to where we are today, I have been very critical internally of how much money we're spending on consultants. And, you know, I've heard the term whistleblower and all this stuff, how this blew up and how the Democratic caucus got this gotcha moment. This thing was blown up because of me, the county executive. I've been very vocal and very loud in my office telling other departments and saying, how the hell is this still going on and how are these numbers so high? And that's what happened. The culmination of that was in August. Harry was on vacation. What we usually do is in about January of every year, we go over my military schedule for the year. And the reserves, I got to do at least 2 weeks. I knew I was going to Japan in June. Harry likes to do a vacation with his family. He went in August. So I get this contract in front of me for $800,000. I signed it. I grabbed, I asked Danielle, my confidential secretary, I said, you got to get in here. I said, make me a copy of this and have Sam or Alicia in my office Monday morning. I think I signed it on a Friday. So they come in, so I sign it, I put it in my drawer. They come in on Monday morning. I said, what is this? How did we get from 66 to 800,000? They assured me that this is for the protection of the county, for making sure our cyber and everything else that the county has with IT is protected. And this contract is for a CISO. So we continued, we didn't like move in fast space to have an IT department back then. We had a guy that we had offered a job, I think in May or June, and then just declined it last minute. He got offered a better job. So we couldn't pay him the money that he was getting the counter offer. You guys have changed the salary. We've now been able to offer competitive salaries. And hence we have a new guy coming on. We can get into that in a little bit. So anyway, that's where this has started to blow up. I went, you know, in my office, said, you know, I brought Harry in, I brought everybody else. I said, you know, this thing continues to grow out of control with money, the high cost of this. Now, do I think there was anything criminal or there was some inside job to hire the HR commissioner's brother-in-law? No. Do I think Sam or Alicia did anything wrong to hurt the county? No. What I think happened is we don't have a qualified IT commissioner level person. We had a procurement guy. We don't have an IT guy. So, I mean, I think many of you guys know some of my strengths are like emergency management and other type of management things. I know how to operate the budget. I'm not an IT guy. And I think most people would agree, but they probably aren't either. But I think you need to have some type of background in IT and management and managerial experience to manage that department. So I think what we have here is a problem of being able to manage not only internal staff, but more importantly, contracts. So that's why they brought this person in. He ended up where we are today. And I think that having a new IT commissioner, so I've been interviewing, and as you guys know, he flew through the approvals yesterday. I'm bringing in a rock star, a guy that represents a county that was ranked #1 IT department in the country twice in the last 7 years. So I think that will be the ultimate remedy to our situation. Do I think that the Democratic caucus, you removed Kevin Darian? I'm not blaming you because you were not at the press conference, but I've worked with Mike Paduch for a number of years. They have a terrible attendance record. 90% of the Republicans show up, the independents show up, but 65% of the Democrats, they show up only, they miss a third of the meetings. We have 2,200 people that work with me in county government, coworkers. How would they, if they didn't show up to a third of the days of work? That's embarrassing. Why do I bring that up? Why is it relevant here? Is because Mike misses these meetings. We had a key budget meeting in this room with Katie, Tom, Mike Amos showed up, and Jimmy O'Donnell, no show from the leader of the Democrats. The reason why I bring this up is we've known that these issues were coming on. If you show up to work you'll find out about it. So the fact that they have a press conference, you send a letter to the county exec, gets responded by the county attorney and says, hey, I'm working on it. There's lots of documents I got to go through. And then they have a press conference right after that. When meanwhile, like, I'm not trying to pick on you, Kevin Darian, but literally, if there's a problem, you call me, text me. We don't agree all the time, but at least we have communication. Same thing with you, Tom. Same thing with you, Kevin. Same thing with you, Rob, and every other legislator. So the fact that this wasn't a political inside job is BS. I totally think it's an inside job because the senator does not like his opponent working for county government, and that's their problem. The other thing I say on it is I've seen over the years, we went through this with the IDA debacle. All the people that got in trouble with the IDA and the millions of dollars that are still missing from the county taxpayers, you know what those people are doing right now? They're consulting for economic development for governments. So I just don't see any repercussions for any of that stuff happening there. And now you see this happening right here. And I think that's the reason why you guys, I have a top secret clearance. I'm held to the highest standards in the United States government. It's very hard to get the clearance I have nowadays. And anything I do in whether my military life or my public life, it can impact that clearance. And I would be willing to stand up and raise my right hand and do the oath. Like and I know you guys wanted to look into this in this level. I'm not criticizing you, but the fact that some of these people said, well, we had to have a press conference. Why don't you ask? What I have the most open county executive, probably in the state of New York. I met with Republican county execs and Democratic county execs. And Kevin, you and I have been friends. We've known this, and this you know what the prior administration was, where you had to get permission from the county executive to talk to a department head or a county attorney. We don't have that. Every one of you, Democrat or Republican, has been able to call and work with our people immediately. So I thought it was a little disingenuous that you take shots and have a press conference and allege corruption on these things. I'm a big boy. I can take that. I'm an elected official. This is what you sign up for. But some of these staff and department heads don't deserve that. And I represent the 2,200 people that work for county government. They do a great job. They work very hard. There's been through a lot of challenging times. And, I just find it disingenuous when the group that shows up to work 2 out of 3 days can make allegations that hurt other employees. And I'm not just talking about Mr. Chapman. I'm talking about other people that work in procurement, IT, and other departments that were referenced in this. So that's pretty much my shtick. Again, I don't have any notes, and I'd be willing to take any questions from you guys, obviously.
You want to go first? Rob?
So Steve, thank you for being here, by the way. No one contacted you at all, other than just the request that went to the county attorney?
What do you mean?
I mean, none of the press conference folks
No.
reached out to you
No.
for any information?
Again, like, I hate to beat up Kevin Darian, but him and I have a relationship, and as county legislator, and he has a different a view on the immigration issue than I did, and we can honorably disagree. But it would have been nice if the minority leader really, and you saw with their testimony, I saw drips and drabs of it, and he's like, oh, I got a call from the senator, so I decided to show up. What kind of thing is that? Like, what are we talking about at this press conference? When he asked those questions? Or, hey, give me a minute, because the county attorney, who is one of the most respected attorneys in the state, said he's getting back to me with the documentation. He didn't do that. He just said, oh, I'll stand up there. Yeah, maybe. Sounds great. I mean, so I think that's the disingenuous part of this. Rob, you could have the same problem with me, but if I'm telling you I'm getting the information or what a department head is, you give him that courtesy.
Right, I mean, I know I've reached out to him many occasions over the years, and you always get back to me, or if I call the county attorney or Mr. Poor, I always get the answer. So I just wondered if you had been contacted at all.
Nothing,
Yeah, no.
zero.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I talked to the senator a little bit when this was coming up. And I said, look, they're going to do the documents, but this is the situation. Everything I pretty much told you, like, hey, we tried to start a department, wasn't right then, trying to do it now. We're looking at people. It is a lot of money. And I said, I don't think there's an inside deal on here. And that was about it.
And just as a follow-up, Steve, on the hiring of a specialist to come in, how much were you informed at that point?
I really wasn't brought in until like February. And, the guy had credentials. And again, I'm not an IT guy, but I'm a management guy. And I want deliverables. And on numerous occasions. So if there's one silver lining of anything here, is that we haven't been hacked. And that you heard Suffolk County constantly brings fear in everybody. Approximately about a year ago, this time, maybe December, I was in Microsoft headquarters in where it was, not Oregon, but somebody help me. Washington State, in Seattle. So that Microsoft headquarters with the FBI, and we were going over all the cyber attacks. Top 20 counties in the country were there. I was one of them. And we spent a ton of time at Microsoft headquarters talking about how many of these foreign hackers are taking over county governments and municipalities. Also, in January, I attended a national security brief where it said the top 500 Fortune 500 country U.S. companies were all hacked by within the first 2 weeks of this year. So that's obviously on everybody's mind. And so when they brought in this hired gun, they said, all right, he's going to look at things. I will say one thing, Rob, in about May or June, I have a good rapport with the governor. I also have a very good relationship with the Homeland Security Director. We work very close, talk on a regular basis. And I said, look, I'm a little concerned about my IT and my vulnerabilities. I'm seeing everybody getting hacked. We've had Crystal Run, as you heard, but there's a lot of governments that have been hacked. I had a staff meeting earlier today. I can't disclose their names unless they're in the paper, but school districts have been hacked, tens of millions of damage. So I called the Homeland Security Director and I said, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you do an analysis on county's IT right now, which is actually being concluded? We're going to have those findings soon. Will those findings be made public? Probably not, obviously, for obvious reasons, but it is definitely something I was concerned about. And me not being an expert in it, I lean on people that do, and I do trust Homeland Security. So that's what's going on at the same time with that.
So I think you would agree that it was critical to hire someone of the caliber of Starr to come in at that point.
I think it was critical because that Sam and Alicia and nobody in county government, in my opinion, management-wise, has the expertise in IT alone to do that, to see what a guy or girl with that type of background would see.
Thank you. Tom?
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks, Steve, for being here today. One of the first votes I ever made here in the legislature in 2015 was putting IT together with General Services. I was a freshman, brand new to the legislature, and it, at that time, made perfect sense. In conclusion, this year, we've decided, obviously, that the split's necessary. Alicia came to this table and talked about the role of IT and how it's changed so much over those years. And you mentioned all of those hacks and stuff, and, the legislature, I know that I voted for the change.
Yeah,
Because in 2015, we said it made sense to combine. The world has changed since then, and the decision was made. And of course, all good governance sometimes has to make a decision. When one time it sounds like it makes sense, to another time it's like, okay, that's not
Absolutely.
working, we have to make the change. You had mentioned some timeline things. I just wanted to address timelines. Yesterday, we had some people come here and talk. And I just wanted the record, and I know Rob and we bounced, I think, a date wrong. So the timeline that I'm focusing on, October 16th, an email was sent to county executive requesting several documents and records. That was on Monday the 16th. It was sent by the undersigned, and we know who they are, Genesis, Ramos, Lori Tortel, Mike Paduch. That was on the Monday the 16th. On Tuesday the 17th, the undersigned then went to the media, and it hit the media.
yeah,
By that Friday, October 20th, there was a response, and we have a copy of that response right here, and that was by County Attorney Rick Golden, and it's a several-page reply, and included in there are significant amount of documents, and they're all tabs, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So by that Friday, this amount of paperwork was sent to the undersigned. That being said, then on the 25th, after receiving those documents, the undersigned stood outside this building. They had a press conference.
yeah.
You mentioned that press conference. And I just want to follow up with Rob. Aside from that initial email from the 16th, nobody, Mike Paduch, Legislator Ramos, Legislator Tortel, or Legislator Nagastakis, they did not reach out to you in any way, shape, or form?
Nope. And like I said, in the past, Katie would reach out to me and say, hey, look, we're doing this. You guys are independent, and you guys don't owe me this. So I'm not owed this, but I've often highlighted the great relationship the county legislature, not the Republican legislature, not the Democrat legislature, the county legislature and I share. And I tell other county execs that say their legislature sucks, we keep ourselves apart, we don't talk, they're after me, I'm after them. I mean, I go nationwide, I see this, guys, I'm telling you. You name a state and they have a very confrontational relationship. So the fact that this was just some like dirty political cheap shot, and not even a call like, hey, look, I'm going to, I have tons of people. Our congressmen, Democrats, Republicans, will call up and say, hey, I'm doing a press conference. I'm taking a shot at Kevin McCarthy. It's not at you, but at least, you know, that type of rapport. But this apparently, you know, you sent out a quick email. You knew you had the press conference scheduled. Half the people at the press conference didn't know what they were talking about. They figured it out on the fly. And that's the disappointing on this. And you're wasting this time. And the amount of time that those individuals showed up at the meeting could be the means that they could have showed up at their regular job as county legislators, which they get paid close to $60,000 with benefits on the thing with all the benefits. I'll argue that till the day comes home. I mean, I got entry-level people that wish that they were in those situations, and I have single moms and dads that work for the county government that wish that they can miss 1 out of 3 days that they're supposed to work here. So I'll take that shot back at them.
Well, I will, I'm gonna bust you a little bit, because I've seen you in pictures with Kevin Darren, I'm like, come on over to Port Jervis once in a while, so I know that you definitely have communicated.
Kevin
with
Darren
us.
and I believe in a Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill relationship of you can disagree, but also work together.
I appreciate that. Just to follow up a couple more of the questions. So, do you, and you may not know this answer, do you know if any of those Minority Leader Perdue, Legislators Ramos, Legislator Tortel, or Legislator Nagastakis, at any time after the 16th, do you know if they reached out to the county attorney or the Commissioner of General Services in any way?
No idea.
Okay. And then just a couple more of the questions. These are agree or disagree. I asked everybody
Yeah.
these questions, so I just want to ask you. So at that press conference, there were several things that were said. Would you agree or disagree with the following? Would you agree or disagree that the situation we're discussing here is blatant corruption in Orange County?
No.
Agree or disagree?
Unless it's something that I don't know, based on my knowledge, is exactly what I told you about. It's a new department head that is not have IT as their strong side, saying, I need to bring some people in here because we have a lot of big contractors making big money. We need to make sure everything is copacetic. That's as simple as I think you can get.
And over the course of the last 2 meetings we've had here, we had the county attorney and the Commissioner of General Services both come in and say that according to their knowledge and their backgrounds, that the procurement policy was followed in regards to this contract. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Based on the best of my knowledge, yeah. I mean, I depend, if you've seen those procurement, which I'm sure you guys know them better than anybody now, I just signed a few this morning. They are vetted through a number of steps, budget, the law is being one in particular. So, and they also have that department head's credibility on it. So that man or woman that's our department head says, I hired this company, they've done this work, and I'm satisfied with the work they do. So they have to vouch for that. So the best of my knowledge, yes. Or whatever that your answer was.
And I think that's all I have right now.
Good.
Thanks, Chairman.
Kevin, you can be mean because I know the Democrats are gonna beat you up for me being nice to you. So I'll say something mean to you if you want me to as well. Makes it feel better.
Well, I don't care about party, especially not this table. First off, I want to echo your sentiments that, you know, over the last couple of years, you and I have been able to work on a great many things. And while we've disagreed on a great many things as well, it's never, affected that relationship.
Absolutely.
Whenever I've been called you or texted you, you've always gone back to me. So I've always appreciated the relationship. And the next time we take a photo, we've got to invite Tom because obviously, yeah, anytime. But those
I'm writing that down, by the way.
There you go.
Photo.
Those pleasantries aside, for me, I'm not here as a Democrat. I'm not here as I'm here for the residents of Orange County. I think that most of us here are. My willingness to be on this committee was always to make sure that we were getting the facts as best as we can get them. I did share concerns, hearing some of the things that I was hearing. Perhaps I didn't feel them the same way that some of my colleagues did, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't recognize as many here, right? We all come from different backgrounds. We all come from different feelings of what we might see, we might react to it differently. I know that part of today you mentioned, like you felt that the procedure wasn't correct. And others have said that throughout the last couple of weeks. I'm not here to judge their reasoning behind why they did that. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt to believe that they felt that they were seeing something that was not trustworthy, or that they were concerned about something, and that they brought that forward because they felt they wanted to do something about that. And some of those legislators mentioned that being 26 years and 14 years, they had in fact seen multiple instances, and perhaps not under your administration, county executive, but that they had seen in 26, 14 years, situations where they felt that there was nepotism, that there was signs of corruption. Perhaps this was not the situation, but it's not to say that it hasn't existed. And I'm sure, County Executive, that in past administrations or in politics, you have seen that kind of nepotism in politics.
Absolutely.
So I want to just kind of get, away from the political stuff, because I'm not here for that. I don't think any of us really have. The residents of Orange County they don't have time for that either. What they care about is there corruption? Is what are we doing about cybersecurity? You echoed it. We all recognize, I think, here that cybersecurity is pivotal. We are as a country a decade behind, if not more. You know this. Many of us who have worked in international relations and so on, we know this. I just want to get to the questions then. So some of the things that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, yesterday in particular, was about the negotiation process. And so one of the things that was a little bit confusing was hearing, who was the expert when we talk about IT and computers when it comes to procurement? Who is that person in your?
I believe that I didn't get the chance to watch all that, but I think the answer is that there was none.
Okay.
It's what they're best of their knowledge. So it would basically be like grabbing Kevin, yourself, Rob, and Tom and I and saying, look, we got to manage this department on our best, experience with IT. It comes with the package of running procurement. And we've had a number of deputy commissioners, because the way it was structured was that the commissioner would run procurement and IT, and they would have a deputy commissioner. One would be in charge of deputy commissioner procurement, one in IT. These folks they've lasted, like, I think goldfish live longer than the longest person has here. They've all left here, saying it's not happening. So that's what forced, I think, some of these guys to rely on outside help. That's why when you hear them both say, well, I think she knew more or she knew more about it. I just think that they both were not as familiar with IT as a independent IT commissioner would be.
When again, I don't expect that you're very busy, so you did not hear both testimonies or both commentaries. But if you did, there was a portion that there was a little bit of a back and forth about who was in charge of negotiations.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was a little bit surprised about was to hear that such a massive, something that ballooned to be so much, had not been negotiated by two of the people, or one of the two people that would have been the lead for that. And excuse me to say, I don't mean lead in the way that was used but the main person to kind of help us reduce the price tag of this.
Absolutely.
Was that surprising to you?
It was disappointing to me, but I knew that we were headed into troubled waters. Like I said, even before, like a year ago from now.
Okay.
Where I saw that the niche program not being on schedule, and again, I wouldn't blame contractors or county employees. I just think the lack of management. Again, I just had a staff meeting this morning, and we talked about a number of big projects going on in the county. The Heritage Trail extension, the medical examiner's office. Okay, when is the medical examiner's office going to be done? 12 months. Well, I'm hearing all these construction nightmares that supply, and you're going to don't come to me in 12 months that you're going to have supply issues, is what I've told my staff. I want to see this thing done in 12 months. If you have problems now heading into the final year of this construction. Same thing with this procurement issue. They had major problems with keeping up with schedules. It was right before the final commissioner left and the new commissioner took over. And I think that they did not have the knowledge that, again, an independent IT commissioner would have had to say, whoa. This thing is a 2-month contract. Okay, I get it. We need you for a couple months more. Or no, thanks, we got what we had out of here. I think not having that individual on board is what got us to where we are today.
I don't want to speak for you, so perhaps, just so I understand. Would you say that when we went into, I think that we can all understand, when we had the $65,000, we all understood what we were getting for that $65,000.
Absolutely.
So what you're saying is that perhaps their lack of knowledge around IT and cybersecurity and so on, that might have led to that price tag ballooning to as high as it was?
I definitely disappointed in it, and yes, yeah, I mean,
So
I
you
definitely
agree
do, yeah.
that things could have been done better?
Yeah, but I think the
Okay.
situation, the ship that they were given
Okay.
is what it is at this point. And again, you've heard it brought up by many of these folks before. They're petrified about Suffolk County. There's a lecture on Suffolk County everywhere you go for national or the local association of counties, because the amount of personal data that was stolen from taxpayers, like we have Kelly Eskew's office with all sorts of records and DMVs, and we have other type 911 calls. So I think that they were so petrified that they grabbed everybody they could to make sure that they were covered. And I've had many pointed meetings with Alicia and Sam saying, like, who the hell are these guys? And do you really need them? And they said, yeah. Now, could the contract should it have been negotiated better or worse? I don't really want to comment on it. I don't know if there was any movement. I'll let Rick answer that. Like, hey, yeah, they probably should have negotiated better, or no, this thing was what they signed up with in January and they just continued it, and that's what the numbers are. So I'll let him answer those questions. My basic answer is that they got worried about seeing what was going on in their peripheral vision and said, we need to hire every hired gun we can to protect ourselves.
Thank you. One of the concerns that was raised also over the last couple of weeks was, and I think it was Legislator Kostakis who mentioned that, there was a meeting in Ways and Means. They were talking about IT, but one of the things, this star CIO individual, this person who was really kind of swooping in and kind of saving the day, it sounds like that would be something we'd want to celebrate, right? Like we're doing great things. We're making sure that Orange County residents are being safe. And what I'm hearing is that this was something that was in dire need. Why would we not talk about this in a Ways and Means meeting? It just seems like something that would be like.
I would give it a two-pronged answer. One, some stuff you don't want to talk about is if you announce your vulnerabilities, that would endanger the county. However, I think that when you now have this new IT commissioner on board, again, this guy's a military guy. I picked him with a great committee. Other IT commissioners in the state of New York came in on the interview process, as well as some other great people in our team. I think that type of guy or that type of girl, in our instance, we have a man coming in, is going to be reporting to you. And I said this actually to Tom Fagione a few months ago. He goes, let me tell you, he said, Steve, would this IT commissioner be reporting to the legislature every month? I'm like, hell yeah. Now, would he be giving you all the, like, here's some of the secrets, but he'd be able to say, like, hey, we've stopped this many threats. I get about 4 calls a week from the FBI, and we talk about school districts. How many school districts in my community in particular got threats and things like that. We want, and you guys want, I believe, and I think the taxpayers deserve, an IT commissioner that's coming in every month saying, this is what I need to do. By the way, I need to spend this much money to protect you here or redo this. We haven't been getting that because it's been enveloped into a procurement thing. So I think when Mike says, oh, I didn't know about it, well, maybe ask the question too. How are we doing with IT, by the way? And it's such an open, we have such great department heads here. Like there's none of them. Like this guy asked me a question that I don't want to answer. Everyone's been pretty fair with the legislature, depending on, it doesn't matter what party you are. So I think that there's dual answers. A, if you had a commissioner, you get those reports every month. And B, and I think we all understand that's the solution to this. That's why the guy's butt barely sat in the seat yesterday and he was approved. So he didn't even get a chance to introduce himself and it was done. So I think that's going to solve a lot of the problems. But I do think that some stuff could have been asked.
First off, I appreciate the work that's been done and to be able to get that, because that's really important. We've said it until we're blue in the face about how important it is to have individuals who can lead the helm of that. The other big issue that kind of kept coming up, and it's perhaps the one that remained the most consistent with me, is seeing something that goes from $65,000 and could go upwards of $800,000.
Absolutely.
And one of the other factors about that was at what point was there kind of a line, I refer to it as a trigger of some sort, where we'd essentially say, hey, listen, you know what, we got to this point, now we're far than the 200,000 that would have cost
Yeah.
to be able to pay for a full-time person. Now we're nearing 400,000, now if we keep going, we're gonna end up being at 800,000. At what point, county executive, was there kind of like the point where, hey, listen, you know, because you
Yeah.
you said yourself when you started off that you agreed that I had to bring these people into the room and say, hey, listen, enough, they're like, what's going on? Why are we spending all this money? I just signed an 800,000, contract.
So my answer to that, and I referenced it earlier, is I called them in and said, what the hell is this?
Mhm.
And I've had the county attorney and the deputy county executive have felt my wrath on this, and I said, this is crazy. But they've assured me that if I take this guy out, we will be leaving the county vulnerable beyond recognition. And so, did they give the guy too much control? Would an IT commissioner have gotten that control? I don't know. But when I have the department head, so if we were hacked right now, their butts would be called into a legislative committee on this. So when I have that person that's responsible, in that case, the procurement, commissioner of procurement, Sam and Alicia looking at me saying, this guy is all we have holding everything together until you get your own person in there. And that's basically where it went. But I hate putting timetables on it, but I in particular, when I offered the job to this new commissioner, I said, look, I know you usually give like 30 days when you're a commissioner to try to be respectful. I'm like, I need your butt here as soon as possible. When can you be here? And that's why he's starting in like 2 weeks. And I called the county executive across the river saying, thank you for letting me take this guy from you. I need this guy now. And one of the things, and I believe I'm not a buddy of this new guy coming in here. I asked him, what's going to happen when you leave? And he said, I've put together an army of very qualified women and men. The county's going to be fine. So I didn't want to make sure I'm leaving somebody in a lurch, but that's the type of situation. The quicker you get this person on here, the quicker you can completely cut this bleeding off.
One of the things that also still concerns me, as just now hearing you about how much influence we've given to this one person, right? Like, we started with a contract for $65,000.
Yeah,
$65,000 should never put me in a position of vulnerability to anyone. If I have a plan and I'm gonna spend a certain amount of money, I'm like, all right, this is what it is. And then I feel like it feels like we were almost ransomed by a person, not the way you're describing. So I'm sure that that's not how you meant it. I would hope not.
nah, I have a different opinion. Everybody hates when I bring it up, but I called it the Dick Cheney scenario. Yeah, he became the vice president to George W. Bush because George W. Bush said, hey, I need you to pick out a guy that's going to be my running mate. I got a couple women and men that'd be excellent. And he looked at them all and goes, I looked at them all. There's nobody like me. And by the way, as I started out earlier, that's what consultants do. Every one of us has worked with attorneys, engineers, PR people, you name it. And they don't come in here and be like, oh no, Kevin Darren's got it all, he's going great. They're all like, I think if you had me on there, you'd get a better product. So I think when you have people that are not A+ IT people, like, Alicia doesn't have a degree in IT. Sam's background is not IT. They're supposed to manage procurement in particular. And you bring in somebody that's got a good reputation, and that's what happened. And we're spending tens of millions of dollars on IT stuff anyway. So when you have a guy come in there and do that, that's pretty much what happened.
Thank you. I appreciate your candor on this, and I'm also glad to hear, from the executive branch, because you didn't have to for you to be here. But I appreciate that, you recognize that we could have done certain things differently. I think that that's really important. I think that level of transparency is important, but also to recognize why we didn't necessarily do those things, right? And why it was so pressing to move on certain things.
And by the way, I know you got questions. One other thing, one of the arguments that happened in 21 was like, how can you just put in money for an IT commissioner and you don't know what those exact dollars are? Mm-hmm. And now this was now approved for a couple $1 million for a new IT department now, because you want to give that man or woman the flexibility to build their own department. So we have kind of this Frankenstein model that's half bureaucrats, county staff, and half contractors. Some counties have almost zero contractors. Some of them have almost all contractors. But we're bringing in somebody that we have confidence and let him, in our case, right, because it's a guy, build what he believes is best to protect and serve this county. So I just wanted to bring that up because you brought that up there, because some of the people are like, well, you can't just say you need $2 million to start a new department. It doesn't mean they're going to just spend it all. They're going to come back to you guys and say, hey, I need a deputy commissioner, or we need to get more of these and less of those. That's the type of person you want in as your commissioner.
My final question, I don't want to monopolize, if the chairman perhaps has questions, or am I just continue?
It's up to you. I have questions.
I know you do. I'll just finish my last question, really. You know, during the kind of these deliberations, one of the things that has, you know, circled back and forth was about who signs certain contracts, who has the authorization to sign certain contracts. I believe that the deputy county executive mentioned that he signs about 90% of the contracts himself. You would sign on certain contracts, and Alicia, is my understanding, has the authority to sign on certain contracts when either of you is available.
Absolutely.
How regularly does something like that?
Very regularly for me. I'm anxious to sign 2 today. So again, the process we have set up in county, and New York State governs this as well, is that you have a number of false, you know, that come to me, like, you know, the county attorney budget, everybody's looked at this. The department head ultimately is also the one that's driving this. So when it gets to me, I have seen it vetted out. If it's something glaring, and I will tell you, I've been here 10 years. I can't count on one hand how many times I've actually pulled one out like that. So, and we have thousands of contracts. So I see many of them. Harry sees more than I do. Alicia sees them, but we do operate on like a military triad system. Whoever's away, you're out, he's out in the field, he's on vacation, I can sign, and vice versa on other situations.
Okay, I guess I'm up. I don't know if you saw all the videos, but you'll know that I was focused on most of the paperwork of my questions, but and also the press conference. Did you see the press conference?
I didn't see it, honestly, guys, I have so much stuff going on in the county, you know, like my bandwidth, I would like to, I'm sure it's got some entertainment value, but literally we have a lot going on with the county, and emergency management is one of the things that when I signed up for this job, it was going to be budgets and economic development and
So your
public
answer
speaking.
is no.
No, yeah,
Now I know how to frame my questions.
you work for a law firm, you should be able to do this quicker.
I could, but it's like the Trump joke.
Are
I
you
don't
tell-
want to hear what you have to say, right?
Are you telling me I
I'm just
should watch these?
kidding. Yeah, you should. As a matter of fact, there's going to be you definitely should watch them, because there are some problems that I think have been disclosed, and I'll share them with you now. But with respect to the press conference, the reason I asked that, I believe it was Senator Skoufis himself that said that Commissioner Chapman runs the day-to-day operation of Orange County. Is that a viable statement?
Totally not true. I mean, he's an HR commissioner and he barely has any involvement, not that I know of, unless he's like robotically pulling the strings of people that he's hypnotized. I don't believe so. This is run by, we have the best commissioners. You guys know that. I know you want me to just codify that, but you know that we have some of the best commissioners in the state. He's not pulling Pete Sorigliano's strings. He's not pulling Darcy Miller's or Carrie Gallagher. So no.
So he's staying in his lane. That's what you're
Yeah.
saying. Okay.
Shock value so he can hurt his opponent for next year.
Okay. Now, you have a pecking order filed with the legislature, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And can you share that, or is that confidential?
No, I think it's the deputy, I mean, it's the county executive, I mean, it's me, it's the deputy county executive, I think it's then Alicia, then the county attorney, and then he is in there because of his past experience as county, as county attorney. So he's like maybe fifth in line.
Oh, Mr. Chapman is
Yeah.
different. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought, because I think you filed that with the legislature, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken. One of the questions that still in my mind remains unanswered
Okay.
is who picked Star CIO for this position?
I think it was a combination of Sam or Alicia, and I know there was conflicting things with them, but the two of them worked very close together. I don't think they're trying to hurt each other, but when it was presented to me, Alicia came in and said, we've had this guy we brought in as a hired gun to take a look at the IT department, and you'll meet him. So that is, again, a question. I would ask each one of those two. I haven't.
I did.
But who actually offered the job to him? That's the person that did.
Well, so were you involved in picking?
No.
them? You were not?
No,
Was,
I didn't meet
was the
until 2
deputy
months after
county
he had.
executive involved in
No.
selecting?
But we have a ton of, the departments pick their own people and they bring them to us afterwards.
Okay, so you don't have, you mentioned a staff meeting, so in my mind, I thought when you bring in somebody of this caliber, you'd have a staff meeting and say, all right, what does everybody think, or what do we think about this department? So when we asked both of them,
No.
who selected Star CIO, they both said,
Each
not
other.
I,
Yeah.
the other one.
So we have almost $1 billion budget, and a $66,000 initial thing would never get to our level.
So you didn't tell Alicia to hire?
No. I never met the guy
You didn't
except
tell
for,
Sam to hire?
no.
Okay.
I met the guy for the first time 2 months after I guess he'd been here, and I saw him one other subsequent time, those 2 times at work, and then last week I saw him leaving the building.
Did you authorize this position to be hired?
No. It was in the budget to be brought in there. They have the money in the budget to bring in consultants, and that's what it is, a professional service.
So who decided that we needed this person?
I would assume ultimately Sam, she's the department head. Ultimately, she's the department head, so she had to approve of that, of course. So you can have Rob Sassy having influence over this or that, but ultimately the commissioner of the department that he might have talked to is signing off on hiring these people.
So you think Sam made the selection?
Ultimately, she is the department head and that person worked for that department. So if she didn't do it, then she can say that I didn't do her testimony, neither did I didn't do Alicia. So they have to answer for themselves.
But ultimately, you have to answer for that too, because as a legislature, we still don't know the answer.
Yeah.
And that's,
The 2 of them have brought that individual to my office. I've never met with him without the 2 of them in the room. So to me, they're both on the hook for it.
so, at some point, you became aware of a relationship with this individual and Mr. Chapman?
I think after the first meeting, they might have said that he was like a distant, but they weren't, in-law, whatever. So that's the most I've gotten into it.
So were you involved in this process at all?
0.
Zero involved. Other than signing one of the contracts?
So the contract was in August. That's the first one I signed, and that was after, again, Harry was away, and so was Alicia. And I brought them in on Monday and said, what the hell is this for? And that's where the one that said, you need to keep this guy on board because otherwise you'd be setting the county up to be vulnerable.
Because the deputy county executive said he was never aware of contract 2 or 3 and was never asked to sign either one of them.
Yeah, the first time he found about 3 is when I brought everybody in the office and said, what the hell is this?
So from your command staff, if that's the proper term, only Alicia knew of these contracts?
Yeah, I would assume so, yeah. I mean, her expertise that she would always focus on was procurement IT, because that's where she came out of. She'd worked under there before she came up to the executive office. So she's tend to always go back there for, to shepherd them through. And you have a brand new commissioner and they had they worked together on it.
Has anybody, after the allegations were made, did you go through the procurement process with anybody with respect to this?
No,
You didn't review it to see if it was done properly?
I lean on 100% on the county attorney's office because ultimately they're the one that's going to be answering the questions and going through all the processes on it.
Did anybody tell you that it was a 8-week contract over the course
Oh, yeah.
of 6 months?
Yeah,
And within the first 8 weeks of the contract, 8 weeks of work was done?
yeah, that Rick and I went over that initially when he sent the findings that the legislators asked for from the press conference. He went through the findings saying, look, this is what happened, and this is where we got today, and this is the situation.
I mean, we're tasked with looking at the procurement process and things
Yeah.
like that. And I know at the press conference, they indicated it was only one person. We now know it was at least 3 people
Yeah.
involved in this contract. But earlier, when you were talking about runaway costs, were you talking about UTC or were you talking about Star CIO?
I think the runaway costs, and even the district attorney, we have a good relationship here, but we have different products that we were expecting to be done from different contractors. And I think what ended up happening without having a manager, you had a circular firing squad. So you had this contractor blaming that contractor that this wasn't done, and so on and so forth, where a manager would be like, no, 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 you're in charge of doing this, you're in charge of doing that. There are some blend over. So I think that's where we got into that situation on the dollar amounts. They are all high, heavy, but I know counties that spend triple that. I know counties that spend almost none of that and have it all in-house. So the fact that we were paying him that much money was very high in my opinion for one individual. Even when you break down the three to one individual is a lot of money.
You're talking about Star CIO?
Garcia, yeah.
Okay. Because UTC was way more, and UTC is still here with the you mentioned CISO before, that, to my knowledge, that's still UTC.
Yeah.
Now, one of the questions that kept coming up and up is, and this came out of the press conference as well, is the initial contract with Star CIO being $65,000 for 2 months. Our task is, could any reasonable person look at that and say $65,000 was going to get the job done? Knowing that the contract self-renewed, by the way, with every invoice.
I think they could. I think they could if if the county IT department was an A+, and I'm again not beating up the staff that work for the county government, but you got this Frankenstein model of contractors and our own people working on there. So you have somebody come in that's basically kicking the tires for 2 months to see if you're good or bad. So some people do come in, like our auditors that audit our books every year come in. We don't have to keep them in all year long. They come back and look at the books. But if you have problems and if you've worked with other municipalities that have had serious auditing problems, you need to spend more money on those contractors staying here. So I honestly, I'm answering the question for them. Them coming in and saying, we brought in somebody to look at our stuff and we expect it to be good. Or hey, here's some recommendations. Those are two outcomes. You had a third outcome here was the guy said, you need to keep me on because you have some serious vulnerabilities. So I honestly.
You know that happened?
Yeah, that's the first time I met him was in a meeting where he came in and said, you guys have serious problems and major vulnerabilities in county government. And I will be gone. It was in like late February, maybe March, something like that. And he came and he said, I'm not going to be here permanently, but I'm going to help put a roadmap together on getting you a roadmap to autonomy, basically bringing in your own people. His suggestion was to get rid of contractors and bring in more in-house people to do the work.
When did you find out that Star CIO was selected?
That meeting, they said, hey, we got a meeting. We had a guy as a consultant.
After the first contract?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. After he'd already been working. So basically they said, look, we brought in a consultant, which we do all the time. We bring in consultants for engineering and all sorts of other things. And he said, or Alicia said to me, said, he's got findings on our IT departments and we're going to bring you in there. So that's where I met him for the first time. He said, look, I've looked at some of your stuff. You got a lot of contractors. You got a lot of staff working here as well. I think you guys have vulnerabilities, X, Y, Z. I do this for a living, blah, blah, blah. And that's the first introduction I had with him.
Okay, so you didn't select them? You weren't involved in the contracts? You didn't decide how much to pay them?
Prior to that meeting, I would never even known he existed in the world.
Commissioner Swaycada kind of told us that Alicia was driving the IT projects.
She might have been. I know, like I said, she spent most of her prior to coming to the county exec's office in procurement and IT. So basically, by her leaving procurement and IT and the former commissioner Jim Burpo leaving IT, you now had other people that were not deputy commissioners coming up through the ranks to run that thing. So that she felt that she needed to help Sam with some of her day-to-day management.
Sam also shared with us that the district attorney wasn't happy. He had grant money. And he wasn't pleased with the process prior to, no one mentioned after Star CIO, but prior to Star CIO, the DA was upset about that. Did
Yeah, the
he
biggest.
relay those concerns to you? It was about the niche program.
Yeah, him and I both had the same exact concern. So last November, we were promised by internal staff that you're going to have this project ready to go, niche. And Rob Doss, our commissioner of deputy commissioner for law enforcement, has been helping with that, but he came in and said it's a disaster and it hasn't really moved to where it needed to be. So what you had is you had the district attorney not saying, okay, where are we on this project? Now, I don't think the money has been flushed down the toilet. They put money into infrastructure and they bought all sorts of equipment on it. It just hasn't been carried down the final stretch. And I believe the reason why that hasn't been done is you haven't, I'll go back to the whole thing. I think you needed an IT commissioner that keeps a schedule and a regimen of deliverables from not only internal staff, but contractors. So without that, it was left awry. And then on top of that, is you have multiple people working on that project, and then you bring in that circulating firing squad scenario. Well, I thought he was doing that part of it, or I did my part, he didn't do his part. So I heard that. That was, so my second meeting, told you my first meeting with Star CEO was when I first met him and he had done the job. The next meeting was sometime probably over the summer. I'm trying to think when it was, but I got him and all the contractors and Sam and Alicia in the room, and I think the county attorney and the deputy county executive. And I said, look, I'm constantly hearing badgering that you're not getting your stuff done because he's not doing his work, and that what is going on? Everybody speak their free will right now in front of me. I never do this as county executive, but what is the problem here? And they kind of smooth things out to move forward to where we are today. But again, you have, without having an IT commissioner on station, you don't have people managing all those people. It's really a management problem, in my opinion. You wouldn't need that 66,000 ballooning to where it is right now where we are today.
And that happened when Commissioner Burkman left.
It happened, a niche problem was identified in November of last year because the police chiefs in Orange County and myself and the district attorney were promised that that niche program would be operational, and it wasn't. The commissioner left the next month. We're trying to look where the heck is the status of this project. And to be fair, it's a difficult project. Only two have made it happen in New York State. The New York State Police and the County of Suffolk now they're underway. But we are now moving along because we have a great guy, Rob Doss has helped keep shepherding that. But there was really nobody in that realm shepherding it, in my opinion, with deliverables. And that's what you're having now.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Good.
Thanks, Sharon. Just to follow up, so, you talked about, the questions were made here. Did anyone ever come to you and say that this Star CIO guy was terrible, that he didn't deliver on what he was contracted to do?
No, the only thing I can say is that you have a number of contractors, big contractors, some most of them big, but we have some small ones that basically said that I'm better than that guy, you should let me do more. And I don't get involved in that. Again, I'm so limited with IT that I don't do that. I depend on, like Darcy Miller, you guys, most of you guys are not mental health experts. She is, so we lean on her for answers.
Oh, for sure.
So I would tell Sam and Alicia, like, I don't want to get caught up in this drama of contractors. You guys figure out who's supposed to do what and make sure they're doing it, period.
And just to follow up, and you had mentioned it, and I think Kevin Darian not focused on it, but it was brought up. This Suffolk County thing, Alicia came to us and she had mentioned some financial numbers. That Suffolk County, they were hacked, then there was a cyber thing. Do you know anything about how much money was involved?
Tens of millions of dollars.
Tens of millions
Of dollars. I met with a college in our area about 2 weeks ago that were hacked, and they had to go from virtual during COVID to on paper. And it almost collapsed the entire institution. We've had, I can't speak about some of the private school districts and towns in our county that have been hacked. But obviously you heard about Crystal Run. I had a lot of communications with the FBI and Crystal Run on their being hacked, and that's all personal data. So you can imagine the same thing here. So the problem is you don't know how much was stolen and how much is being used. And then you have to build up. If you don't have stuff backed up in clouds, and you have to build back from scratch in some of these instances. So that's the vulnerabilities we've had. I think that, again, I'll be much happier December 7th when ultimately you guys hopefully confirm this new guy that does this for a living for county governments, exactly what we need. And then we can close this chapter and move forward.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Steve.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chairman.
Well,
Thank you again, County Executive. You know, one of the things I've, has been in the back of my mind is that sometimes in acting out of fear or acting out of concern, sometimes we make some hasty decisions, and it seems that in some ways we might have made some hasty decisions in this situation, kind of backed ourselves in a bit of a corner.
So it's funny you brought that up. When we had the school bus accident a month and a half ago, the media is just focused on getting information. Who's dead? How many is dead? Who's the cause of the accident? And you have some calm, cool, collected leaders like myself and Vinnie Tancaselli, some other people, other elected officials, not myself, are trying to speculate. It's the bus company. We're going after the bus company. Their maintenance, the day of the accident, within less than an hour of the accident. That to me was a reckless move that they had to go back on because it wasn't the cause of the accident. Sometimes it's okay to not know. So that leads me to your question of if my department heads or our department heads come to us and say, we think we have vulnerabilities, we brought in, I'm not an expert at this, but I brought in somebody that is, or I have a number of people that say we have vulnerabilities and we need to do X and Y to protect the taxpayers, that's ultimately what they ended up doing. What I'm trying to reverse on you here is the legislators that had a press conference should have called somebody. They don't want to talk to me because I'm the county executive and I'm the top guy and they want to do a political hatchet job. Call someone else. Call Sam. Or if you think Sam was responsible for an inside job, call this guy, the county attorney. You know, ask him, say, look, we got a problem with this. We have suspicions or we think there might have been this. That was not done. So this was a complete hatchet job. I will back up my staff anytime that they want to spend extra money to protect us. Am I happy about the amount of money we've had to spend on this? No. But over the years, the county has put themselves in the situation that this happened. And I think the rectifying solution to this is bringing in an actual rock star IT commissioner that knows how to do county type of stuff, which is what we're doing. And I think that's going to help us, but I share your concerns on it.
You know, I think that all of us in moments of seeing that there's a potential concern, we sometimes act out or want to try to address it as best as possible.
Yeah.
I know that, even just a couple of months back, there was a concern about a story about veterans being displaced, and that made national news.
Yeah.
There was a very big concern to a lot of people, and
by the way, you're lucky you understand who did not go on Fox News or CNN and say that. Okay, I've heard the story. I vetted it, and two of my people said after about a week, this doesn't seem right. I mean, it usually pulls in your heartstrings, but I'm telling you, as you know, the top people in media jumped on this case, and it turned out not to be the truth.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that because there was many federal, state officials that had that running national news as something that was factual, was pretty embarrassing.
Front page of newspapers.
Front page of newspapers. And that was a situation that several people felt that they felt deeply concerned about it. And they did what they felt in that moment was the right thing. Unfortunately, they didn't vet as well as they probably should have, but.
And by the way.
That's what they did to, if you mind, they did what they felt was, I think in this situation, we still have, at this table, weeks later, still have some questions and some concerns. And you yourself have just mentioned that there were some things that, as we look at it, we could have done better, right?
Yeah.
So I can't speculate what my colleagues, were their reasons behind it. But what I can say is that here sitting today, while I have a lot of answers, we still have a lot of questions. They may be certainly not as many as before.
Yeah.
But I'm also left with still the understanding that we could have done better. And I definitely don't like, sincerely, that we are in a position that we could be vulnerable to one person and to be kind of indebted to them in that way. It leaves me very, very concerned because, if this is one situation, I would hope that there's not others. But this is a small contract if you consider the millions of contracts, the millions of dollars in contracts. So it's an important, learning experience. So
That's why if there's anything that comes out of here,
Mhm.
maybe the county legislature needs to hire a truancy officer. Because if you have people doing their job every day and asking those questions like you are, and not missing 1 out of 3 meetings, maybe they would be asking those questions. I agree with you. When you see this every day across the United States of America, county governments having this or that issues, because you're dealing with a lot of money. And there's opportunities, there's some bad people out there. Like you brought up the young lady who, multiple Purple Hearts, heartstring story, thrown out, crying about veterans being kicked out of the thing. The average American believes that right off the bat, because we're trusting good people. That's what this country is. But unfortunately, there are some people that do bad things. And I think our job, check and balance, county exec and the legislature, is to make sure that all those dollars are being spent in the right way. And this is not an instance that we're going to put and say, hey, this is something that a benchmark. This is a learning experience. We've dictated and put out our county department heads to help other counties that are having problems in XYZ things. This is a situation where I called my colleagues, county government, and I had a Democratic county send in the IT commissioner and a Republican county send in their deputy commissioner, sat on the screens like that over there, and sat in the interview process for this new IT commissioner you have. So that's the good thing about it. You have to make this a learning experience that it doesn't happen again. And whether it's in county government or anywhere.
Absolutely. Again, I think that looking at this, one of the concerns that was, was this in fact the best option? Then looking at, what other counties were paying for a full-time person and then seeing this astronomically large number, it sends some red flags. Whether or not all the facts were there were some concerns that were raised, right? So it's good that we're learning from this experience.
But I'm not trying to defend Sam on this, but you, at the time, a year ago, our salaries were not where they were. You made that adjustment back to reality. Most of the legislatures get that you need to hire more people. Hire people at a higher salary because it's so competitive right now. I don't know if Sam, not trying to defend her, had the ability to bring in anybody, like maybe she should have picked one of the other two. I'm not sure. That is up to her decision. But we as a county, I brought her name in, and she was in the command structure down there. She was confirmed by the legislature. We all collectively put our faith in her, and she made that decision with Alicia's probably input. And that's the way it went. And I think we had a guy that was accepted the job and got a counter offer. We know the story. And now you also have an adjustment that was made by the legislature. I was able to bring in Rockstar. We had some great resumes come in. I brought in a Rockstar that I think is going to fix this situation ultimately. Again.
Just a quick comment. Steve, thanks again. Alicia D'Amico made a very telling comment yesterday. I think everybody at the table in the room and watching would agree, everything is relative. So we can argue all day long about the 800,000, the exact amount, so on and so forth. But in the end, did the job get done? And the answer has come out, yes, it did. So I looked up and she said, her telling comment was, look, if I didn't do this and we became Suffolk County, you would have been after me saying, what didn't we do?
Absolutely.
So I looked it up while we were talking here. Suffolk County is $16.4 million they spent. So we spent 800,000. Suffolk County spent 16.4 after being hacked. So she's right. And I'm right. Everything's relative.
Yeah.
So yes, we're here to guard the taxpayer money. I think we've done that. To sometimes things slip through, absolutely. The politics get involved, no doubt. But her comment and that $16.4 million, imagine if we had to answer to the taxpayers, you and all of us, that, we weren't covered. And now we have to bail out millions of dollars of taxpayer money to get out of this mess. So everything's relative. She was right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thank you very much. Our next issue is another meeting. There's gonna have to be at some point an attorney-client meeting for the four of us with council, I assume Katie as well. And then we're gonna have a draft copy that we can go over. So we will need another meeting, probably, what are we thinking, 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah.
What do we have, Gene? 2 or 3 weeks from today, I would guess?
That brings us to December fifth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Tuesday,
Thank you.
2 weeks from today is Tuesday, December fifth.
What time are we
It's
thinking?
a week of session, so there's nothing going on except.
December 5th is 2 weeks.
Tuesday.
Is that enough time, Betsy?
Likely not.
Likely not. Okay, what about the 12th?
Yeah, maybe that's a little bit more reasonable.
That's week of committee, so that's 2 o'clock sewer and human services and health starting at 3:30.
It can't be the 12th. What about the 11th?
Monday, P and C and E&D.
But those are 3:30.
Do maybe a,
So we could do it
Before
before
that?
that?
Yeah.
Would you think it would be a long meeting or no?
That depends on the committee.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
say an hour.
So 2 o'clock on the 11th, like stretch that way, if we had to go an hour and a half, we'd be
Yeah.
able to.
Sure. Yeah.
December 11th at 2 PM?
Yep.
Everybody agrees to that?
Works for me. I'll make myself available.
Thank you.
Is that an open meeting or is it
Yes.
just a meeting? Okay.
That would be an open meeting
Yes.
in this room to discuss the draft that we have put together by then. Okay, anything else anybody needs to bring up today?
I want to thank you, Chairman. You did a great job
Good job.
getting us here. No, but where we've gotten so far, you've been doing a great job. So I
Thank you
appreciate
all.
that.
Everybody's spending a lot of time on this, no doubt. Okay, motion to adjourn is in order?
So moved.
All right, we are.